Generally, the modern day desk and office are not places people think of very fondly. We usually associate them with going to work, sitting down at our desk, working a mindless job that we don't really care about, having our boss Daryl nag us all day because we haven't hit our quota yet, when we don't even care about the quota. All we want to do is go home, ignore our children, and play Overwatch for the next 8 hours. When it comes to being in a place where productivity and business are usually at the forefront, we don't usually think anything creative comes out of that. You certainly wouldn't think that some of the most beautiful performances from artists that have defined generations were made sitting in an office behind a desk. See what I did there? Hey, but to your credit, this was exactly the same kind of thought process that brought about the creation of NPR Music's Tiny Desk. That almost mythical shot that we've come to know of this cluttered office with stuff strewn around a desk that doesn't even look like it should fit 2 people, let alone an entire band, where artists have been able to sit down and provide some of the most intimate sets that you will ever see in your entire life. And while don't get me wrong, Tiny Desk has been insanely popular for years and years and years now, but I think some of the concerts that they've had recently and people rediscovering old concerts have been reminding people that music doesn't have to be this gigantic, symphonic, grand gesture. It can be as intimate as sitting behind a desk with a few other people and singing your songs. And that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today, believe it or not. We're gonna talk about where Tiny Desk came from, why it's so important to the music scene, and how it's reminding people that a lot of the time, less is more. But first, hi, my name is Henry. I love music. This is where I talk about it. If you've never seen me before, subscribe. That would be kind of cool, I think. This is my first actual commentary video that I made in the past few weeks just because I've been kind of out of town and all over the place. So it feels very nice to get back into it. But unless there's weird circumstances like there has been, I make videos every week about different topics, albums, artists, just anything that is cool in music. So smash that subscribe button, smash that like button. What else do they say? Does the notification bell even do anything? But anyways, Tiny Desk, yeah, that's what we were talking about. I think people forget how long Tiny Desk has been a thing, so it's important to remind people where the origins actually started. Believe it or not, Tiny Desk has been around since 2008 when it was started by NPR music editor Stephen Thompson. The idea started to come about after he left South by Southwest, which is an Austin, Texas music event, complaining that he couldn't really hear the acts that were performing. Thompson then brought this issue up with his singer friend Laura Gibson, and they started joking around that Gibson should just perform at his Tiny Desk. They planned it for about a month, they recorded it, and they put it online, and it was a smash hit. And since 2008, they've hosted a plethora of musicians of all different genres. They've been able to host gigantic musicians like Taylor Swift, but the success of Tiny Desk eventually led them to launch the Tiny Desk contest back in 2014. This was a contest where a musician from a small town in the middle of nowhere could submit a music video to Tiny Desk, and a jury of musicians would decide on a winner to have their own Tiny Desk show. It was such an amazing way to show love back to the people who originally supported Tiny Desk, and it's still a tradition that has been running since 2014. But the show has expanded as recent as this year in April, where they launched Tiny Desk Radio, a radio station that would replay some of the best Tiny Desk shows, and also have its host and other musicians break down kind of what they were feeling in that moment or different stuff about the shows. And I think people forget sometimes that the Tiny Desk set hasn't changed from what it was in 2008. It's not a set in a studio somewhere, it's still hosted in NPR's office in DC. And it's not just these artists recording these shows without an audience, these are actual concerts. So seeing all this growth and the longevity of Tiny Desk brings up, in my opinion, a very obvious question. Why is Tiny Desk so appealing? It appeals to a few different things that I'll talk about. For one, it scratches the itch of having a live performance of your favorite artist be able to be watched again and again and again. Whether that's because they sound better when they're performed live, maybe they have an added intro, outro, different kind of instrumental, or maybe it just makes you feel like you were at the concert. Tiny Desk has been able to provide that feeling from the comfort of your own home. Seeing an artist you like perform your favorite songs live from the comfort of your own home, on your computer, your TV, or wherever, gives you the ability to watch them all back, just kind of like a live album. Live music is and always has been kind of an intimidating experience. And even with the crowd portion of that aside, concerts are still a very I don't know, overstimulating experience. Most of the time they're very loud, whether that comes from the musicians themselves, the crowd, or both at the same time. It can sometimes be like a physically unsafe environment depending on who you go see. And on top of that, it can be pretty expensive. Concert tickets aren't as cheap as they were, and especially with the current resale market of concert tickets, it's not getting any cheaper to go see your favorite artist live. And I'm not complaining about any of those. Maybe the resale market, that's pretty easy to complain about. But I go to concerts all the time. I've been to hardcore concerts, I've been to very chill concerts. I'm a huge fan through and through. But it's also easy to step back and realize that not everybody is a fan or is even able to experience those things. The other reason is the intimate and instrumental experience that Tiny Desk has become famous for. It allows the artists to get super creative over who they want in their band, how they want their songs arranged, and how they want them performed. But it's also really cool as a fan to listen to some of these songs that you would have never even thought could be played like that. For example, JPEG Mafia. I know I talk about him a lot on my channel, but I'm a big fan. If you've listened to JPEG Mafia's music before, or maybe you've just at least heard some of it, your first thought probably wouldn't be, wow, this song would sound really good with a pianist, a few guitarists, maybe a drummer. You know what? Take the whole electronic part out of it and just like have there be a band, which is one of the coolest things about Tiny Desks. It gives artists the opportunity to make music out of their comfort zone or arrange their music out of their comfort zone. And the product is always really, really cool. And like I said, Tiny Desk has been popular for years, but this intimate and instrumental experience is something that is reminding people how great music really is a lot recently. It's been super, super interesting to see the resurgence of people's love for Tiny Desk, especially younger people. And it's not even necessarily about the people they've been having on. One of the most recent Tiny Desks was for Clipse, Pusha T and Malice. Both of those people are in their late 40s, but it was still a lot of young people showing their love for this kind of style. But more what I'm talking about is it's reminding people how great some of the like bare bone things of music really are. It puts the vocalists at the forefront with their band working in a masterful way to support them, which in my opinion shines a huge light on how talented a lot of these people really are. So with that being said, allow me to introduce to you Samia. Samia is an amazing singer-songwriter who started going viral, I think it was like a month ago, for her Tiny Desk performance of her song Pool. This raw, tear-jerking, devastating performance really highlighted how talented Samia really was as an artist. But the virality that this performance had shows the appreciation people have for just music with no extra frills about it. Being able to hear Samia's amazing voice with her background vocalists and her band playing just as well to support this song and even make it like more emotional in a sense. And it got to the point where people not only were discovering Samia through this performance, but they loved it so much that Samia went and re-recorded the song as close to that version as she could and re-released it. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's that's really cool. And this isn't even tied to singer-songwriter music or melodic music in general. In fact, one of Tiny Desk's main criticisms when they were starting early on was that they weren't having enough genres that weren't like that, such as hip-hop. Which, like I said, Tiny Desk is a very interesting experience where artists that may not make music like a singer-songwriter would, they get to kind of arrange it differently and present it in a way that they don't usually get to. And so may I also introduce you to Mike. I also talk a lot about Mike on this channel. I am a very huge fan. Mike is a very phenomenal rapper, and if you know anything about him, you know his music is very sample heavy. Whether that comes from old music that he finds or even movies that he may see, his music takes a lot of inspiration from that and uses a lot of that in his beats. So when you're listening to his music or you're thinking about it being performed live, that might not be what your mind first goes to, is an entire band behind him recreating the music. But recently, we were absolutely blessed with a Mike Tiny Desk performance. There was no prior promotion for this, no like anything about it until the morning it dropped. I literally woke up, I saw it on my phone, and I was so excited. And what I saw was Mike joining forces with this incredible band that he put together to perform his music in a different style without sacrificing any of the effort that it put into making the music, any of the emotion behind it, but especially any of the creativity. It allowed a more free-flowing energy to be felt throughout that entire performance, and not once was it ever unenjoyable. Oh my god, that concert was so good. But that was just another huge example that once all the frills are stripped from music, if it's good, it's still gonna sound good. Just because you couldn't hear how masterful Mike is from the producer side with his beats, you could still see how amazing of a musician he is. And that has stayed true with Tiny Desk performers for years. Some of artists' most famous clips are from their Tiny Desk performances, like the Mac Miller clip where he's with Thundercat. But I think in an age where music seems kind of inaccessible because of how overproduced or limited it's becoming, but I think at the end of the day, Tiny Desk is still reminding us one thing. Music is about how creative you are. But if you're creative enough, not only can your music sound a completely different sound and still sound good, but it can be performed in a space where typically music is frowned upon and still make a huge impact, which is always going to be super, super, super amazing. I don't think there's ever going to be a world where Tiny Desk is not a super important staple in the music scene. It's almost like a Grammy level accomplishment. Like when your favorite artist gets a Tiny Desk performance, you are gonna go crazy. But I believe that's all I have to say about that. NPR's Tiny Desk is always going to be a huge staple in the music scene. I don't think it's ever going to become irrelevant. If you enjoyed this and you watched to the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, you should subscribe. If you look at my channel, you'll find tons of different videos about different topics in music, albums, or artists, and you'll even find some interviews I've done with artists. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I'll see you later. Goodbye.